And now, ladies and gentlemen of the old world, we're back in business once again with a showdown between my Bretonnia, who shall be led by King Lewin. And today, my friends, we face off against the Lizards, who shall be led by Lizard Moses, clutching that tablet with all of his might. And he is going to be on his Velociraptor, and of course, he does have the lore of Manticore summoning, so he certainly does And on that note, I really do feel like Tehennowin is one of those lords who is really overshadowed by other lords in his roster. Whereas, again, if he was on a different faction, he could certainly be a very common pick. He has some pretty good items. He has the ability to imbue poison to all nearby allies, which is very strong. For example, if he's amongst Temple Guard, or let's say you have a feral Carnosaur that's fighting a big enemy monster, being able to poison in monstrous dueling situations is incredibly powerful. So if you look here, you can see he does have the Blade of Serpent's Tongue, which is quite a good item. And also, Lore of Beasts is really good, or Lore of Manticore Summoning is what it should be called, but yeah, pretty solid for sure. And that is his lord. Now, for my main army, this has been considered to be a pretty tough matchup for Bretonnia, but, I was kind of experimenting with a couple builds, and this was one of them. Obviously, Questing Knights are really the go-to, right? Questing Knights have good AP, they can kill infantry, they don't really require much support, but I wanted to try a little bit kind of off-the-cuff build. I don't know if this is more common or if this is something people do often in tournaments, maybe it is, but I have peasant mobs in the front. These guys are just going to take a beating for the lady, which nothing is truly more Bretonnian than throwing peasants to get massacred by dinosaurs. Here in the secondary line, we have men-at-arms. Gotrek, of course, is a standard staple in this matchup. Anti-large, armor-piercing. Really addresses one of the weaknesses of the faction against the Lizards here, so see how he does. How about this guy? King Lewin is great as well. So basically what we're doing is going for an armor sundering build. So King Lewin does have the Sword of Couronne, which lowers armor by 30, and then we do also have a Heavens Caster. I accidentally put the caster on foot though, big mistake, but it's okay. But the Heavens Caster does have Curse of the Midnight Wind, so with their combined abilities, you can lower the armor of targets by 60 if I'm not mistaken. So we can bring the Bastillodon down to 80 armor, which is still a lot, but Temple Guard can be brought down to 25. It really allows us to get some heavy melting on targets. So on that note, since we're going to be going for armor melting, instead of going for Questing Knights for their AP, we went with Grail Knights. Grail Knights, of course, are excellent at massacring hordes of SARs and skinks and whatnot, but also they're an anti-large tool. So if we're able to melt the armor of a target, charge it with Grail Knights, hopefully we'll be able to get some value. 2 Trebuchets in the back because, there's an old school build which my opponent actually brought. Now, the more common builds against Bretonnia are just to use monsters like the Thunderous one. Sometimes you see Dread Saurians, you see, Slans, you can see Zlok, with Jabba the Hutt, of course, riding it. But this is kind of one of the more old school ladder builds that you do run into, so I always bring a couple Trebuchets in this matchup just in case. So you can see here my opponent did go with triple Temple Guard. He's got Star Chamber Guardians and double Temple Guard. And what you do is you basically just sit with your Bastillodons on top of the Temple Guard, and you just blast the Bretonnian Knights and their archers with the solar engines. And then when the Cav come in to try and stop you, Temple Guard tear them to pieces. So it's kind of a thing that Chaos used to do. Chaos players used to just spam, Chosen with halberds or Chaos Warriors with halberds and then stack Shaggoths on top of them. It's a very similar style of play. So bringing a couple Trebuchets, which are very cheap, can be a great answer against that. On top of that, we got a bunch of Peasant Archers, and that's pretty much it. Peasant Archers, of course, apply poison, and now that it no longer does friendly fire with the poison, it's incredibly good. Definitely one of the better aspects of the Bretonnian roster. So we are going to advance here. We kind of have to. I mean, I do have the Trebuchets, but my opponent wisely pulls back his Temple Guard out of range, and now he's going to be scooting forward here with the Bastillodon. So Lewin's going to be coming in, trying to do a little bit of juking, but I do actually get a little bit lazy here for my moment, and my opponent able to get all of his laser dinos and just blast Lewin in the face. Yeah, literally, those are the most accurate laser dinos I've ever seen. I think one of them kind of missed, but it looks like that was a 3 for 3 for the most part. So, well played. So here you can see I'm like, all right, no more of those games. I start juking back and forth, and mainly I was kind of like scouting here. I also popped the Lion Shield just in case I get hit again. But despite my juking, those guys are still getting some pretty good shots there. So just blasted across the board. But Lion Shield, of course, does also give you not only missile, but magic resist. So the amount you get is like, it pretty much makes you impervious to those shots because they do magic damage and they're also missile attacks. So you pretty much take no damage when Lion Shield is active. So that didn't really matter, I guess. Anyways, Grail Knights coming around the flank here. I did see a bit of an opportunity to come in and maybe go after this guy. So we charge in, we pop Sword of Couronne. Sword of Couronne, what is that? It sounds like Couronne. What is it? Couronne is for Magic the Gathering. Yeah, I was just playing Magic. That's why that name is going on. But anyways, Grail Knights are going to be charging in. He responds with the Manticore Summon, and we're getting some pretty big damage. This is a very ballsy play. Definitely not respecting Lizard Moses, as he is able to put a ton of damage on King Lewin here. But you can see with Armor Sundering effect, Sword of Couronne, and Curse of the Midnight Wind, we are able to take half HP off that Bastillodon very quickly. Granted, at the end of the day, I don't feel like it was terribly worth it, although we did bait out a Manticore Summon, so that's nice for sure. The Manticore Summon, was used in a bit of a reactionary situation. And it's not really going to do too much other than maybe just disrupt some Peasant Archers back here. Now, Lewin's going to be bouncing about. These Grail Knights took an absolute hammering. So at this point, I got to pull these guys back. I got to get my bearings. The other Grail Knights basically just used on the flank to ride down some skink cohorts. And the Trebuchets are now pounding into the Star Chamber Guardians. So you can see the Star Chamber Guardians are really actually taking some substantial damage. And the Manticore Summon, unfortunately, has taken out my Peasant Bowmen here. They're going to be breaking, but should be able to come back. So Lewin just being somewhat careful, just going for free engagements, trying to get rid of his skinks, and really just slow down his army, because I know if I can leave him with just Temple Guard, and I did actually overcast that Wind Blast back there, but I guess I must have missed it. I could have sworn it used to do more damage against armor. Here we do have all of our Peasant Archers shooting at the Bastiladon with the Solar Engine, slowly wearing that guy down. I don't have the Curse of the Midnight Winds right now. I started with a very low amount of Winds of Magic, so I haven't been able to really pop it again, because if I had, this Bastiladon probably would be broken by now. So Grail Knights coming front and center. I do see that he has some Saurus advancing up through the ranks, so the Grail Knights are going to pull in and should be able to charge in and intercept these Saurus for Bretonnia, for the lady. And we'll see what kind of damage we can do. We do also have Tehenowin here, so Lizard Moses is actually trapped amongst my Grail Knights, which is a good situation. On his Velociraptor, he is actually a large target, so the Grail Knights with their bonus first large should be able to do some good damage. I also have Gotrek here as well. Gotrek has popped Gotrek's Doom, making him quite a scary threat. Now, I do go back here with King Lewin, a little bit ballsy because I took a ton of Solar Engine fire to the face, but I was able to break one of the Solar Engines that had the most ammunition, which I was quite happy about. So from here, I'm going to be kind of chasing that bad boy, but I got to be careful, man. These Bastiladons with the Solar Engines definitely going pretty deep. So as far as the fighting goes, balance of power is pretty even, a little bit in my opponent's favor at this point. It usually is the case, obviously, with Manticore summons. And it looks like his second Manticore summon has been used, so this is the second and last summon that is going to be on the battlefield. So we break that Solar Engine, but Lewin, I felt a little bit kind of apprehensive about chasing with all the firepower I was taking, so I run into the tree line to try and avoid that fire. And here, we have the fight of fights. Tehenowin is afflicted by the Curse of the Midnight Wind, but he does respond very nicely. Well played to my opponent with the stand your ground, like right at the exact moment. And Lizard Moses is going to get pretty tanky with that, but I guess it has worn off here, and the Grail Knight's doing some good work. But of course, I'm stuck in combat with Saurus, and I believe I'm taking some Solar Engine fire as well, so this Grail Knight's definitely not having the best of times. Now in the back line, we do have skink cohorts back here, which is a little bit scary. I had some peasant reserves that I was kind of using to guard my artillery pieces. So knowing Lewin has come full circle here, we will be pulling King Lewin back to the battle in conjunction with some of these spearmen and trying to peel off these skink cohorts, which are certainly causing some problems. Now, Grail Knights did a good job pulling them back. 17 models here, 13 models here, so they're very beat up. But Grail Knights are one of those units that, even if they only have a couple models left, like Blood Knights, for example, you've probably seen like 10 or 15 Blood Knights win you the game. It's very, very nice to have them in the fourth quarter, and they've done a really good damage kind of sweeping and cleaning up here. So now a little bit of an aggressive play. In retrospect, probably not the best idea, but the Field Trebuchet is still pounding into the Temple Guard, getting good damage. You can see the Star Chamber Guardians have gotten no kills pretty much because they've just been getting pounded by the Trebuchets and sitting in the back. But my Men-at-Arms do push up. Nice Flock of Doom from my opponent is going to break off my support, so realizing the situation is a little bit dire, I do start running with my Damsel here, and I leave Gotrek to fight for a little bit longer, but the Velociraptor King is coming in. You can see Tehenowin, the clever girl, well, that's it from his raptor, I suppose, is going after my Damsel, and the Damsel is in a little bit of trouble, to say the least. Perhaps the Damsel is in distress. And she's going to be running for the Trebuchets here in the back. King Lewin making a big roundabout, just basically buying time because he does, of course, heal himself, which is quite nice. And the Grail Knights riding to the aid of the Damsel in distress do come in and buy some time for the Damsel. You can see the Trebuchets still pounding into those Temple Guard. Man, I have to say, the Trebuchets, you never leave home without one, man. They used to be such a meme, but they're pretty awesome for sure. Now, Gotrek is also in good shape, and Gotrek is a powerful armor-piercing beast. So Gotrek fighting against Temple Guard actually isn't a bad trade for me, so I'm quite happy to still have him here because there's a lot of Temple Guard advancing on my battle lines. The Lizards are running a little bit low on ammo. You can see a Wind Blast going down there on some of those advancing Temple Guard as well. But the big thing I have going for me is my Trebuchets. This one, of course, is a little bit caught up. The other one's being blasted by the remainder of the Solar Engine ammunition, but still having those Field Trebuchets to shoot downtown, just absolute goodness here. Also, the Grail Knights are really big. I mean, like I said, even a couple groups of Grail Knights, 117 on these guys, 77 here. They've been doing quite well, and my Peasant Archers are kind of rallying around the map and just applying poison to the advancing Lizard forces to try and make my opponent's situation that much tougher. So here we are able to stabilize that Trebuchet using King Lewin. You can see all those laser dinos, not so accurate anymore, are ya? Shooting in at King Lewin, but man, my opponent's been on point this game with sniping him. But Grail Knights going in now, get a nice charge against Star Chamber Guardian. So for any of you guys who are new to the game, if units have charge defense, they have to be braced. So a really good way to hammer like a spear unit or a halberd unit with cavalry or anything else that you really want to get in there with is to send in like a single entity or some other infantry or something to get them fighting. And once they're fighting, their charge defense isn't going to be active. So here the Star Chamber Guardians are going to be moving in. Gotrek is just staring at the Temple Guard he's defeated, perhaps a little bit confused. Maybe got a bonk on the head there, but here we're going to be charging in the Peasants of Bretonnia. Valiant, look at these guys. Pitchforks and hoes ready. Going to be doing battle with Star Chamber Guardians. Certainly an uphill fight for these bad boys, but they should be able to hold on. Bounce Power is like dead even still at this point. This has been an absolute scrap all game. And the Star Chamber Guardians are, they're taking a little bit of damage. I mean, the Peasant Archers are really adding up. All those little arrow shafts, eventually they do get there. Gotrek is going to be chasing these very healthy Temple Guard. And I do keep the Grail Knights back right now, just trying to wait him out in the ammunition department, because I know once he runs out of ammo, and there's an opening, which you can see right now there is, right? He has nothing defending them. Finally, he sent forward his Temple Guard. I can fly in with Lewin, Lion Shield active to mitigate the damage, and the Grail Knights are going to swoop in from around the side and really hammer into the Bastiladons. And you'll see, like, even a couple Grail Knights like this, just watch without any debuffs. I mean, this Bastiladon still has full armor. The Grail Knights are going to be able to do some big damage. 2,200 Grail Knights on impact. Look at the charge damage. That was like 1,100 damage plus instantly just from these, like, a couple Grail Knights. Such a badass unit. But anyways, we're able to charge in there, and Lewin's going to be going after the other one. Granted, I was being careful. My opponent kept pulling back to Lizard Moses here and really threatening me, so I was like, I don't know if I want to take that engagement with Lewin. I mean, I might be able to win it, but if I get 2v1'd by the Bastiladon and Tehenowin, it could be scary, so let's just be patient. Let's wait for the Grail Knights to finish off this Bastiladon, and they certainly do. Man, they put a number on that thing. And here we have King Lewin. He's on his Mighty Beast, going to be going after this Bastiladon, and he did try and rotate back here with Lizard Moses, but the Knights of the Grail do intercept Tehenowin. Focus Instincts active to... I do that all the time. I actually feel like I'm like, oh, it's a leadership up, but no, it just gets rid of rampaging. But yeah, Lizard Moses is fully trapped now by the Grail Knights. Grail Knights should be able to defeat him very handedly in combat. And yeah, you can see here, King Lewin is able to go downtown and take out that Bastiladon. And man, Grail Knights are so cool. And, yeah, the meta really is questing Knights, but I feel like with like some, good armor sundering capabilities, and Lewin, of course, doesn't need, healing support, you're able to get away with some pretty cool strategies. Not that the combo was that powerful this game, but there was a lot of stuff that went on under the radar where I did use the Curse of the Midnight Wind to like lower the the defensive stats of some Temple Guard that I didn't really catch on camera, but it seemed to be pretty effective and well played to my opponent for sure. It was a good scrap. And yeah, I like that build. I don't know if I would call it better than the traditional Questing Knight build, because Questing Knights are just so much better against Temple Guard too. But man, that Grail Knight charge at the end was nasty, the amount of HP damage they did. Yeah, I like it. I think it's fun. I mean, I'm trying to think about... I obviously made a lot of play mistakes. I was a little bit sloppy on rallying my archers when they broke and came back, but for the most part, Gotrek did his thing. I mean, he chopped up some of the big dinos and took care of some Temple Guard. The Trebuchets were huge MVPs also. Trebuchets and Grail Knights, I think, were what carried that game, 100%. And yeah, as far as my opponent's build, it's a very old school ladder build. Certainly not the best way to play against Bretonnia, in my opinion, but I mean, there's other ways that Bretonnia really struggles to deal with, which is typically just like monsters, like like basically you bring Thunderous One, you can bring like Zlak, you can bring a Feral Carnosaur, and it just becomes such a pain in the ass to drag those things down. It's a lot of work for sure, but yeah, I mean, I do think that the Laser Dino build is it can be pretty strong. It's kind of an old proven staple against Bretonnia, but I think a lot of Bretonnian players have kind of picked up on it. And Trebuchets have also made a comeback, and Trebuchets are a counter against Halberd boxes, so you got to be wary of that. And well played, DC Avengers, man. You played a great game. Your presence with Tehenowin was certainly quite ferocious. He was able to fend off Lewin quite a bit. His target priority with the Lizards was very good as well, and he was very patient with those Temple Guard too, keeping them at the back line. But yeah, it's obviously, I do think it's still a heavily favored matchup for the Lizards, but it can be done by people who I think are Bretonnian specialists. I've seen it attempted in tournaments. Typically, the Lizards just kind of dumpster the Bretonnians, but I have seen a couple times when really good Bretonnian players are able to defeat Lizards. Usually it's with like Questing Knights and Gotrek and Lewin and things like that. But yeah, it's fun to use Grail Knights. I think they're a really cool unit. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Well played to my opponent, and you guys stay safe through Nurgle's Plague, and you guys take care as well. Cheers.